So we are going to reinstall the Torpedo's shorter factory bolt spring. I had swapped out this spring for a longer Mercury TR50 bolt spring in hopes of resolving an off-gassing issue I was having, but I believe that problem was ultimately fixed with the longer, tighter firing pin that I installed, also from a Mercury TR50. So we're going to reinstall this bolt spring, retain the upgraded TR50 firing pin. We're not going to move that. I will inspect it and for wear and see how it's, make sure it's not loose or anything since we'll have it apart. But we're going to reinstall the spring, and then we'll test it and see how it performs with the factory original spring. So first things first, let me get all the extra accessories off. Let's see. We start with the dot scope and the laser. We'll just take that all off with the, we'll leave it on the riser, the Picatinny riser here. And we'll just take that off in one shot. This way we retain its calibrations. All right, we'll move that off to the side. We'll take the tuning barrel extension off, which I had reamed out with a reamer so that I could use the 12.7 millimeter steel ball bearings. That worked out pretty nice for me. So tuning barrel extension, we'll take that off, put that aside. Forgive me for clearing my throat so often, my voice. Between allergies and getting over a cold, it's, you know how it is, it's miserable. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna leave the rear ASA and the GOG on and off. We'll leave that alone. We shouldn't have to need the monkey with that. Wow, that thing's on there tight. Wow. I don't remember putting it on that tight. We'll remove the quick puncture and make sure there's no CO2 in there. And it looks empty, so we'll remove that. And we're going to remove the 12 screws. All right, so let's do that. I guess it doesn't really matter where you start. Again, I like to have a magnet handy. And keep it either on a magnet so you don't lose the screws, or if you got a little work area like this with a built-in magnet, they come in handy. These silicone mats, I think I paid like $10 for it. I mean, they're really good. For $10, gives you a place to keep your parts. You're gonna do any kind of work like this, it's you'll notice almost everybody has something like that. But it's nice they get little magnetic spots on here too where you can, well, I'm probably off the camera, but there's spots that'll hold the screws for you. Let's see. It is allergy season. All right. I'm just randomly taking these out of here now. This is a number 3 Phillips that came with this screwdriver kit. Got all kinds of assorted bits. Right. That one's hanging on a little bit. Come on. Oh, there you go. All right. These screws are much easier to work with than the Mercury. The Mercury screws are so much smaller. But even these, you can lose them pretty easy if they hit the floor, especially if your work area is a mess. I try to keep my office pretty clean, but because I do work full-time from this office as well. for work. But sometimes it's a mess, especially when you're doing remodeling work in the house. It was quite a mess. I had tools everywhere in here at one point, but I finally got my bathroom remodel done. So I was able to clean up that mess. Now I just need to keep everything tidy here. So yeah, so there's like 12 of these screws. Just be sure to keep some downward pressure, especially when you're first starting to break them free. All right, we got what, 4 left. 4 of these little puppies left. All right. The tip of this screwdriver is actually magnetic as well, so that's helpful. If you get it loose enough, the screw should come out with the screwdriver like that. All these screws on this particular gun, this Torpedo by Mercury Rise, they're all the same length, all 12 of them. So that's helpful. And like I said, they're larger screws, so they're a little easier to get in and out. All right, that should be all of them. Let's see. This has been off so many times now, it shouldn't be a problem, but with the piercing cap removed, just come in through here and, try not to force anything, but it should come off pretty easy. You could also use a plastic tool to separate it if need be. Take the clamshell half off, put it aside. And here you're going to have your barrel. Okay, you're going to take your barrel out, just kind of give it a little wiggle. This inner body, or inner clamshell that houses really all the other parts and springs and the bolt and valve assembly, it all lifts out. It's just, you can easily just lift that out like that. Okay. Yeah, so you have your barrel with the spring on it. I have a couple O-rings on here just to kind of help stiffen up the spring. And this other O-ring I have on here just to kind of help with the snugging up and not over tightening my extension, tuning barrel extension. The little trick I learned from Less Lethal for Dummies from Sean. It's a handy little trick. Does a good job. And then you have your axle drum and your, let me put this aside, your axle drum and your axle drum spring. And then there's this, a little different from the Mercury TR50. It also has an axle drum and axle drum spring, but it doesn't have this little plastic keeper. Right, so don't lose that. That helps keep the spring in place, I suppose. Stiffen it up maybe, keep it aligned. So you want to put that aside as well. And then what you're going to have left here is you're going to have the inner chassis clamshell, okay, which is where all the good stuff is, right? It's also, you got to be careful with this because springs tend to want to go flying. This model I did drill out the there was a restrictor in here, CO2 restrictor, that came from the factory. It was a non-removable type. So what do you do when it's non-removable? Well, you drill it the heck out, right? I drilled that thing completely out. Now, of course, it's going to be useless now with CO2, but now this is acting like a expansion chamber. So when I use it with HPA from, through the buttstock adapter, this now is all capacity. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. We'll see how that's all drilled out nice and clean. Came out really good. I was happy with it. Did the same thing to my Mercury TR50. They will not see CO2 again, at least not in here. I could always put it on the back, a 90 gram or something like that, or 2 times, you know, a Mercury or something. But honestly, why would I want to do that? HBA is great on these. I've seen, you know, great improvements with them. Anyways, to bore you to death with that. With the next step here, you don't have to take this off if you have this already on there. It's actually within this inner clamshell. But you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got 6 more screws. These are small. Try not to lose these. Okay, first thing I like to do is go around and just loosen them a little bit first. They're very short screws, so you don't have to do an awful lot of unscrewing. Just go around and make sure. You don't want to find out after you got half of it apart and it's kind of falling apart on you. Maybe it starts to open up under pressure. You don't want to find out then that you got a strip screw. So what I like to do, my advice to you would be to make sure they all can loosen up first. And then once you're satisfied, then just carefully remove them all. You're going to see these are much shorter, smaller screws. Look at that. And compare that to, whoop, I don't want to take all these. So compare that to that. Give it back. Okay. Anyways, I think you get my point. Very small. I'm going to put them on the other magnetic pad over here. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess, which ones you take out first, but, you know, like I said, it's a good idea to probably loosen them all first a little bit so you know what you're dealing with. Okay, and when you're down to your last screw, you need to be prepared for what's going to come next, because once you carefully pry off this cover, you're going to be in a situation where, for one, the bolt spring's definitely going to push this whole assembly out. So you got to be prepared for it to be able to catch it. You're not going to stop it from happening. I can tell you right now. There's no way you're going to stop it from happening. It's going to happen. Just be prepared to deal with it and try to limit where it goes, and ideally limit it from coming in contact with the trigger assembly and smacking all those springs loose on you. All right, so here's the last one. Every time I open this up, the bolt spring goes flying. Well, not really flying, but it's under pressure, so you got to kind of expect that's going to happen. Okay. All right. Now, if it's first time coming off for you, it may not be as easy to come off, but mine's been off a few times, so just kind of carefully, don't apply pressure on your trigger group, okay? You don't want to be pushing on that, because the little springs are the worst ones. You lose those, you're going to be hunting for them forever, okay? This whole thing will wiggle a little bit, because this is separate from the valve and bolt assembly. Try not to put a lot of pressure on this trigger group. Just kind of lift this up a little bit. Again, you might have to pry it with something. This is metal, so you can use a screwdriver. You could still use a piece of plastic. Like, you come in here, right, and kind of lift it. That seems to work. Right, lift it a little bit. And again, this is going to come flying, the bolt in here and spring. Be prepared. See how that happened? Okay. If I just lifted this cover off super fast, everything would have went flying. But see, that's not too bad. We can fix that. You don't have to panic. I panicked the first time I saw this. I was like, holy moly, what am I going to do? Don't panic, okay? Just take this aside for now. All right? Now, all that happened here is the little pin that holds this assembly down, it got dislodged. Happens all the time. I can fix that. Okay, not a big deal. Of course, my eyes are awful. I can't always see what I'm doing. But that can be fixed. See, the pins come out anyways. And that little spring just rides right in here on this little, what do you want to call that? A tit? Nipple? Yeah, I guess we'll call it a tit. All right. So you just got to get that lined back up. Okay, it's pretty easy. And then take this little pin, which is very oily and slippery right now, so I can't even pick it up. Another good reason to have one of these magnetic things, because I should have just picked it up with that. Okay, and then just, oop, came out again. It's all right, it's all good. Just put that back in there. Now, even if that hadn't happened, right, and just the bolt spring sprung out, but that was together, it's still a good practice to go and push on these pins down because they do loosen up. Okay, same with these. Just gently push on them and make sure that they didn't come loose, okay? Inspect all these springs, make sure that they didn't come loose. This one here is the only one that sprung out on me one day when I first took it apart for the very first time. I must have hit it somehow, came bouncing out, went across the room, landed in my other desk, and thankfully I was able to find it. These parts do come out. This is your, I don't know, barrel keeper or a barrel stop. This is the part right here that it's crucial that your barrel spring's seated properly and you have a good barrel spring, because this is the part the barrel pushes against this and it holds the seal. The other end. What am I doing, Alan? Smarten up. Here we go. This is all that makes a seal there. Okay? Inside there. The best seal you can get is what you want, because you don't have a good seal there, a lot of that wasted air power is going to be spraying back at your face. Okay, so you want to make sure that never forget to put that back in if you put it aside. I just like to keep it there. Same thing with this, your spring keeper or a bolt stop. Yeah, you can take it out, you can leave it in there, whatever you want to do. Okay, you got to have that. You got to. You know, there's no way you're putting it back together without that. But I have put this back together and forgot to put that in there. So that's why I don't do that anymore. I leave it in there. That's all. You learn. Lessons learned, right? I didn't go to school for this stuff, so you learn it on School of Hard Knocks, I guess. Or however they want to put it. All right, so this is the Mercury TR50 bolt spring. See, it's, I don't know, this camera angle, if I am holding it right for you guys. But, yeah, it's like a ½ inch longer. I don't know really if it's any stiffer. It looks to be about the same coil thickness. But this one's the factory spring. I'm going to reinstall it and see if the problem's still going with my off-gassing. If it is, for sure, then, hey, at least I know for sure that firing pin was the culprit, which, honestly, I believe it was, but... Okay, now's a good time for me to inspect, since I've shot this quite a bit, this gun quite a bit since I put the other, changed out the firing pin. And other than the fact that my screwdriver, when I went to put that firing pin in there, was starting to strip out the flap blade, other than that, I don't see any further damage. It hasn't loosened up in there. I did reinstall it with Loctite, so that looks good. Still feels good. The firing pin engages sooner than that other short little stubby one did. Let me wipe this off really quick, check it for wear, but I don't think there's any wear on it that I can see, anything major. Yeah, Doesn't look like there's any major wear or anything. So we'll put a little bit more of this silicone grease on there and put it back together. I like to use this stuff, the Super Lube synthetic silicone grease. Dielectric food grade. Yeah, this stuff's pretty good. And then for everything else, I use the same brand, but the Super Lube, this stuff here. There's probably some other good products out there too as well, but I don't know. I saw it somewhere. Somebody was using this, and I was like, oh, let me check it out. And you know, I didn't have to refinance the house or the car to buy it, so I figured, hey, it's supposed to be good. Let's try it. That one's got like, I think it's got. Is that the one that's got Teflon in it? Some version of it with Synclon or what? I don't know. I can't even pronounce that freaking word. It's crazy. Anyways, I think it's got like some kind of a Teflon in it. I think stuff's getting oily over here. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is just, you know, lubricate this. I wanted to inspect it since I have it apart. And even though I have had this apart multiple times, I don't want to keep doing this constantly. I don't know how long the plastic and the screws are going to hold up with me constantly taking it on and off. So the O-ring in there still looks good. I ordered one for spare for the TR50, the Mercury TR50. I ordered one just to have it on hand for that gun because I'm planning on shooting daylights out of that thing this spring and summer, taking it to the range once I get the longer barrel for it. And I plan on shooting that gun a lot. So I figured, let me make sure I got an O-ring if I blow one out for some reason with the HPA 1100 PSI. I imagine they're the same size, but who the hell knows, because I don't know. Some things are similar, some things are the same, and then some things are not when it comes to the differences between this Mercury Rise Torpedo and the Umarex TR50. So some things are better on this, and some things are better on the other one. I can tell you I'm getting more power out of the other one than I am this one right now anyways. But I think a lot of the problem is the air pressure escaping out of this design. You don't really seem to have that problem with the Umarex TR50. So that might be some of it, possibly. So we're going to reinstall the factory spring, which is already pretty oily, so I don't have to worry about it. Moisture issues. One side's tighter, I think, than the other here, isn't it? No, I guess not. Okay. Yeah, so installation. It's pretty self-explanatory, I think, but a couple different ways you can do this. This spring's not going to have as much tension. It's not going to fight me as much as this one did, so it should be a little easier. But still, you're going to be fighting the tension. And big difference that I'm not a fan of is the Torpedo does not have these little holes like around the valve body here, like the TR50 Umarex does, and it's got dowels where you can, while you're fighting it, you only have to fight it to get it over those dowels, and then it holds itself in place. With this gun, you don't have that. There's no holes here, there's no dowels here. Okay, the only thing that really holds this in place once you get it in there, other than a whole lot of luck, is really right here. It's really the way this shape, the body is shaped to go around this pot. That is all that holds it until you carefully get this side of the clamshell back on. So when you do get it in there, you got to be very careful that you don't bump it, because it's just going to bounce back out. And if it catches this stuff on the way when it's bouncing out, stuff's all over the place. Okay, trust me, you're going to be stressed out. So you do want to be aware of that. Some people like to just go right into this springs, the bolt stop. Other people can do it, you know, maybe you rather put it together and compress it this way and put it in. No matter which way you do it, I will tell you that this sear, this is the part right here that catches, that's the sear that catches the bolt right in here in this little groove. Okay, and when you pull the trigger, that's the part that disengages and allows this bolt to come flying under pressure, allows it to go out and fight against the spring, right? And then it just goes, poof, right? And once it gets so far, air pressure gets released by that pin, that firing pin inside, and then you have the addition of the air pressure also projecting pushing the projectile down the barrel. Okay, so that's pretty much how it works in a nutshell, as far as I know anyways. What I did do last time to make it a little easier for me, because the sear kept getting hung up on my spring over here, and really what I needed to do was get it over here, right? So what I did was I pulled down on this carefully, first making sure these pins are in. Always make sure these pins are fully down, right? And I make sure that spring's in. Yeah, it was kind of creaky, but yeah, it's all right. And I kind of wedged something in there, is what I did. Something laying around. Whoa, got pieces, pots going everywhere. And I just kind of wedged something in between the trigger piece and this other part of the sear assembly, just to kind of hold the sear down out of the way, so it would, you know, I wouldn't be fighting with that too. So I figured out what I used. Can't use this because it's going to stick up. I'm going to hit it, and then I'm going to have a big mess. I got to find something. Maybe I thought I used a washer or something, but maybe this will work for now. Just something to stick in here that I can easily remove afterwards. Maybe two of those. I was going to use this magnet, but my luck, it'll pull one of these springs out and then it'll all fall apart. So I'm going to use two of these little gaskets, but I mean, whatever you have laying around. Just going to stick that in there. And what that's going to do is that's going to keep this sear down a little bit more, so that when I put the spring in here, it's not catching the spring on me, because I got to get this all the way to here. Okay. All right. Wish me luck. Sometimes also I like to roll it in like down this way. But now that that sear's down out of the way, I think I should be able to just push it in. Ooh, and you know what I mean? It's tough. All right, I got it in there, now stay. It's a fight. It's a fight. Okay. See, now that's where you want the sear. Right there. See the point of the sear right in here. I know there's grease there. It might be reflecting if it's hard to see. Okay? That's where you want it. This is the part you're going to fight with. But while you're fighting with this, you got to be careful you don't disturb all this stuff, because it'll come friggin' flying out on you, and you'll be wigging out. Everybody in the house will know that you're pissed. All right? Again, you don't want these loosening up. Now, the only thing holding this in right now, other than a prayer or two, is right here. It's that little cupped valley. Okay? So, it's in there. It'll probably stay like this if I don't just bump it too hard. Make sure that's in place. All right? Now, I need to get these shims, these seals that I used out. And this is where I'm starting to think I made a bad decision on what I used, because, yeah, I'm thinking I made a bad decision. All right, so this is a good position right here. I got my thumb and hand holding this sucker from moving, okay? I ain't going nowhere now. Now I'm going to carefully take these things out of here. carefully, maybe one at a time. I don't know, maybe it wasn't a bright idea using these for shims. Now I gotta get them out of here without all right. This is when I need a third hand. All right, hallelujah. Yeah, all right, don't use something soft like that. Find a penny or a nickel. I mean, pennies aren't worth crap anymore, right? They'd pull out easier probably. All right, so we're okay here. Again, make sure this is all pushed down, make sure nothing's come disturbed. Once it's back together, at some point, sometimes it's helpful to take a picture. You know. All right, so while it's still together, here I'm going to make sure that this is in for the barrel. Make sure that's all in there. And now we're going to put this little puppy on, which can be a challenge. You gotta kind of wiggle it around a little bit until it snaps in place like that. Okay, that's going pretty good. Check it around, make sure you don't have any gaps. Okay, it's all connected. Looks good. Again, they did us no favor not having, the Ulmrichs did us favors in some ways. Reinstall your 6 screws. These are very small screws. Don't strip them out. Try not to strip them out. Just screw them down. Until you get at least 3 or 4 down there. I probably wouldn't take your hands completely off this thing because they're not very big screws, and they're being asked a lot. These little screws are being asked to hold this whole spring-loaded assembly together, which kind of blows your mind that they're using this small of screws to hold a spring-loaded assembly, but yet they got bigger, beefier screws holding plastic on where there's no spring tension. All right, I got 3 in there, so I feel pretty confident that this ain't gonna go flying everywhere. All right. Don't over crank these because you will strip these little screws. I'm using a number 3 because number 3 worked on these best, and it seems to work fine on these as well. However, don't want to strip them out, so you don't have to go tighten them down like like a gangbusters, right? So again, it blows my mind that these little screws, just 6 of them, is what's holding all this stuff together. But yet you got 12 of these much bigger ones. These are like 3 times the size. All right, and that's it. And then once you do that, hopefully you didn't forget to put this barrel seal stop thing. But see that sound? That's what you should hear. Okay, see this here? Now, if this ever pops out, it's got to go like this on the bottom outside. You don't want it on the inside of this. Right? See, it comes up, so it turns your cylinder. Right? Cycles the cylinder around. These 2 working together. That's it. And then you got your barrel seal that you got to have. That is that. All right, that was the hard part. This is like, what is this, my fourth time? Third? I took it apart once for, I guess this is my third time taking this apart, so I am getting a little bit better. But I will say that original spring that I just reinstalled, being that it's ½ inch shorter than this one, much easier to compress than this one. So that was, that made it a little easier. It's the first time I'm showing that fully on video, because the first 2 times it got me so stressed out that honestly I wanted to keep it G-rated. I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to do something that was gonna, you know, that I couldn't, that if young kids wanted to look at this, not that young kids would, but teenagers or something, I didn't want to embarrass myself any more than I already do, but by cussing up a storm. So, and there's always a chance that I might have done a little bit of that night. Just saying. Did a whole lot more praying though when I lost that screw for a while. All right, so now we're gonna put it back together. The rest is pretty easy peasy lemon squeezy, so they say. Just drop this puppy in here. Drop the inner chassis into the clamshell, and you got a barrel to put back in. You have a drum axle and drum axle spring and guide that needs to go back in. Do not forget this. I forgot this. Had almost every screw back in here too, and then realized, oh, I got extra pots. So yeah, don't want to do that. Don't do what I did. You do have to tilt this a little bit to get this in there. So just get that in there. This pot, no big deal. You can put it in before or after. You want your little spring keeper, right? That's all, just like that. Now the bolt, the barrel, I'm going to take this outer one out of the way first. That's just for the extension. I keep this here because I had to bore this out. I had to remove some plastic to get this tuning barrel to work. It wouldn't fit because it was too tight in the torpedo. So because of that, there's not a lot of meat over here. I don't know if you can see that, my hack job, but there's not as much plastic as there was. There wasn't much to begin with. All right, so because of that, I also have an O-ring on here just to kind of help, and it's been working great. So you could always do that as well, but the key takeaway here is put your barrel in like this. Let me have to turn it a little bit. Push this barrel spring. Make sure that it's in there, in front of that plastic, okay? That's crucial because that barrel has to make a good seal against your cylinder mag. So it kind of floats around. It has to be able to move in and out. Okay, so we got that there. That looks pretty good. Once you're satisfied with that, then you put on the other half of your clamshell. I like to start from the front because I want to make sure that barrel spring stays in there. There we go. Okay, make sure that stays in there. Now, what I usually do with this, because it's so crucial that barrel springs in there properly and hasn't moved on you, I like to put just a couple screws in first. Okay, just a couple screws. And the ones over here, these 3 near the barrel. And I won't even crank them fully, but maybe I will. But I don't want to go crazy and put all 12 screws in until I can assess that the barrel spring's okay. And I'm going to show you how you do that in a minute. And for you guys that have watched some of these videos that I've done, or other people's videos, yes, there's going to be some redundancy here. I repeat myself. Sorry if you don't like it. I guess you can always do a video, make your own video, and then others can critique your video, right? Just trying to help out, that's all. And having fun doing it too. All right, it's the name of the game here, folks. All right, I don't do it always right. Still learning, ever learning this stuff. So I got these 3 in there just by the barrel. And the reason why, and then I'm going to hold this back of this clamshell with my hand, is that I just want to make sure that, right here, make sure that you got that movement, okay? See that? This barrel needs to float. It needs to move, okay? So that when this is in here, and it's turning and turning, each time it clicks to the next cylinder, it has to make a good seal over here. Okay, and that's all that makes the seal, is this piece right here. Okay, so, and that's the spring. That's the work of the spring. If you don't have the spring in there, it ain't gonna work. If you don't have a stiff enough spring in there, and you got a longer barrel, or you're shooting like real heavy ammo, it's going to drag that barrel forward possibly, okay? And you could lose power, or you could have other problems, you know, or it could cause the barrel to get stuck forward. So you got to have a good spring. Sometimes you got to double up on those springs. Sometimes you just got to, a lot of the good tuning barrel kits will come with a heavier spring. Or you might have to get creative and order a heavier spring somehow. But always make sure that that's good before you waste your time putting in the rest of the screws. I'm satisfied with that, so I'm going to continue to add my screws. Okay. Now, if I hadn't checked that until I had my last screw in, and it wasn't right, and I had to take it apart again, then obviously it'd be more work. So, just trying to save you some work, if you even want to do this, because it's not for everybody. You know, you got to have a lot of patience to do this kind of work. Thankfully, I do have the patience to do it. And you got to kind of be somewhat mechanically inclined, I think. Luckily for me, I'm not only mechanically inclined, I'm electrical. I deal with both. These days, it's mostly electrical, but there was a time when you had to be a mechanic, and you had to be no electricity to work on standby power systems, diesel-powered generators, and that's really kind of where what I used to do many decades ago. So, part mechanic, part electrical. So, but with this stuff, I guess you're either going to have a knack for it or you're not. But again, you got to have patience to do this stuff, or else you're better off paying somebody to do it. So, and you got to have the aptitude to learn. You got to be able to learn from watching videos and or reading things. You know, you got to have a good reading comprehension, or learning, you know, aptitude to just learn, you know. I mean, if the interest is there, you can learn anything. That's the biggest thing, is being interested in a subject. All right. I'm almost done. I got 3 more screws here. I'm just putting them in random order. The other thing is, you know, make sure as you're going that the clamshell closes up too. You want to check it. I mean, I know it is because, like I said, I've done this a couple times on this gun, so just want to make sure you don't have big gaps or anything, but ideally you want to check that before you even start putting in the rest of the screws, because you don't want to cross thread into the plastic either. So put them all in kind of hand tight, and then go back around and you can do your final tightening, but you don't want to go like crazy tight with this stuff. Because if you strip out a screw, then, well, you strip out a screw. All right, so now I got them all hand tight. I'm going around now just to snug them up, make sure that they're not loose. I don't want them super, super tight, but I don't want them loose. Especially the ones near that barrel, because I want to make sure that little bit of plastic and O-ring that's holding that barrel spring in place, I want to make sure that it ain't going to move. So, And also keep good downward force on these screws when you're loosening them up initially, and also when you're tightening them up, but even more so when you're loosening them up, because like I said, you really don't want to crank these down. Don't want to over torque them. All right, let me wipe all this off, my oil prints. Make it look all pretty again. All right. Clean this mess up. My hands. All right. There you have it. That is the sound it should make, because you don't have I don't have the cylinder mag in yet. Again, right here. Of course, this is not the first time I'm testing it, but make sure that your barrel floats and you got good spring tension. Okay, your drum axle, right? Make sure that operates. Whew, that actually feels tighter than it did before I took it apart. Hey, as long as it stays up there, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to stay up there until you unlock it, right? Now, give this a couple turns like this, okay? I like to do this when I'm shooting too, every periodically or in between magazines when I first add a new magazine. I like to do this. As Sean with Less Than Lethal for Dummies says all the time, and he's got a good point. Know your marker, know your gun, know your air gun, right? Get comfortable with it, get to know it. I know what this is supposed to feel like in my hand. So when I rotate this, and by the way, when I'm rotating it, you take a look at that barrel and see what it's doing. See it go out and in again, right? In and out, in and out. You want good tension on there. Now you will feel that tension through the trigger too. If you don't have good tension there, this trigger will feel lighter, okay? And here's a good example of it. You take your fingers here. Now you won't be able to do this with the factory barrel because it doesn't stick out like the tuning barrel does. But to give you an idea, I can pull out on this. If I pull it out and hold it there, look at that. Okay? So if this thing's spinning, it may not be spinning to that extreme, right? But if it's kind of feeling really loosey-goosey and the trigger's loosey-goosey, guess what that should tell you? Probably your barrel spring, right? Something's not right. If you took it apart, put it back together because you put a tuning barrel on it, maybe you didn't get that barrel spring in the right position. Or maybe you forgot the barrel spring. Of course, if you forgot it, it'll probably be doing this. Unless you push in on it, it'll probably be doing this. You don't want it to do that. You want it to do this. Click, tension, click, and it seats. Click, it seats. Right? That's the only thing that's making the seal there. Don't have a good seal there, then you got air pressure coming out instead of it all going down the barrel. Okay, so can't stress that enough. Get comfortable checking it in between mag changes. Make sure it feels good. This one feels awesome. Feels nice and tight, and you will feel it in the trigger. It's tight, but you'll see this move. Okay? So that would be my advice to you. I think it's good advice. It's sound advice. Not to float my own boat, but I think I'm giving you sound advice. You can either take it or leave it. But there you go. All right. That's pretty much it. The only thing I have left to do here is put the tuning barrel on. The tuning extension, I should say. The tuning barrel is on. This little trick I picked up from Sean's channel, which can be very helpful, is put an O-ring in an O-ring kit that you'll probably never use to good use. And I'm going to put the extension for my tuning barrel on. And this is another thing too with these, you can't crank these. So if no other reason, that O-ring for me is it serves as a stop. Because if you make this too tight, as you're tightening this up, what are you doing? You're pushing against the plastic frame. and that's drawing. And this is another thing that could be happening to you guys with tuning barrels and extensions. You might have this too tight, because what it'll do is it's effectively drawing this whole barrel back against the spring, which is making this loose. And I'll show that to you. Watch. I'll intentionally do it. And keep screwing that in, screwing that in. It's pulling it. It's pulling that barrel, because that barrel's not screwed into the breech or anything. It's just sitting in there, and it's held in by a spring essentially. Right? Look at this. Look what it did. See that? Now it's spinning around. So now, sure, it's still cycling, but it's so loose, it's not going to cycle easy. And now against air pressure as well, you know, I know at least one of you guys out there that actually talked to me through, I think it was Facebook Messenger recently. This could be a problem. Maybe this tuning, and I know you had a turning barrel and an extension on it, this could be too tight and it's pulling, drawing the tuning barrel back. And that happens. Okay, so if that happens, just loosen it up a little bit, put an O-ring in there, let it be a stop. And now, okay, it's feeling better, but it's still got to loosen it up. Pull on it a few times, gently. You don't have to be an animal about it, you know. All right, there we go. Now, and this is what I mean, know your gun. There we go, right? Now, as I turn that, you see this barrel go forward, back, back. Now you're making a good seal. Okay, I'm a little long-winded, but somebody out there needed to hear this. I know it. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to shut this video down. The only thing I have left is put my optics pick rail back on, and then I'll test fire this tomorrow and see if it's any better or any worse. And hopefully we don't have that off-gassing problem, doesn't return. I don't think it will. I think it was the firing pin. But we will see tomorrow. Hopefully I don't have the crappy luck I've been having with my X68 lately, dropping mags. All right. Peace out.